Welcome to the Inside Scoop, Virginia. My name is Shannon Sullivan. I'm your host this evening. COLAs, steps, and furloughs, oh my. I have with me two guests from the educational avenue in Fairfax County. They're going to be talking about the budget crisis and the school budget that's going on right now. I have with me Leonard Bumbaca, who's president of the Fairfax Education Association, and Mark Glaser, president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. So, if both of you could take a few moments, describe each of your organizations, maybe your education background, and give us a little insight into the budget that we're going to be talking about.
Well, thank you, Shannon. I'm the president of the Fairfax Education Association. The Fairfax Education Association represents nearly 7,000 educators. These include teachers and education support professionals, custodians, instructional assistants, the type of bus drivers. Pretty much the people that are in the classroom working with the students and the people who are helping to make that instruction possible. We are an affiliate of the National Education Association and the Virginia Education Association.
And how did you come to this line of work?
Well, I was previously in the military as a naval officer, and I came out, and I've always I knew I wanted to get into education. It was another type of service, and I'm a math teacher. I teach geometry. I'm on release for the time being to be able to serve my members.
Wonderful.
And I'm looking forward to going back. Normally, I'm a geometry teacher at Annandale High School.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Mark, what about your organization and your educational background?
I'm president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers, and we're associated with the American Federation of Teachers, which is a division of the AFL-CIO. And we have nearly 4,000 teachers and support personnel in Fairfax County. There are about 25,000 employees in Fairfax County Public Schools. And I started teaching in 1972. I'm a special educator. And I did my postgraduate work at American University.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We'll start with you, Leonard. If you could describe the Fairfax County and this public school system, because I think it gives us, or need to give context to the budget as we're going to discuss it, because Fairfax County is not small by any, or any description. I don't know if you have some statistics or something to put it in a frame of mind.
Well, you're right. The scale of Fairfax County is overwhelming. As a county, we're larger than several states. We have over 1 million people in the county. We have over 168,000 students in our schools. And as Mark has said, we have 25,000 employees in order to be able to provide the education to these students. We have more buses, as we hear, frequently than Greyhound. In order to be able to transport these, to transport the students to school each and every day. We have schools that range in size and geography all over the county, in needs, in affluence. So not only do we have a large number of students and a large student body, but we also have a wide range of student needs.
Well, Fairfax County is very diverse.
It is indeed, and so just about every language in the world is represented. But we have we have over 200 sites. In my time as president, I've tried to in the past year and a half. And I know Mark does the same too. We try to visit the different schools, and you learn about the enormity of the scale of this.
Now, what about the quality? I know that we like to Fairfax County likes to brag about pretty much anything. Any way to quantify what we're able to present our students with as they move on to bigger and better things?
I think by almost any standard that you look at, Fairfax is rightfully proud of the quality of the education that it provides.
Is this by way of the number of students that go on to post-secondary schools, Higher on up? Yeah.
Students going to post-secondary schools, when you take a look at SAT scores, when you take a look at the graduation rates, Fairfax County has rightfully earned through the work of its teachers and its professionals a place of pride for a system that is the 12th largest system in the country.
Oh.
And dealing with those scales, that scale of the services that we've talked about providing, it has been able to do that. And there's no secret why. It's because of the high quality people that are in this county teaching and working to support the instruction.
Well, that's a perfect segue into actually trying to describe how schools are funded. You know, it's the budget process, whether it's, you know, statewide, countywide, or going on to the school system, it's complex. But there are some simple factors. I don't know if, Mark, if you could describe those to give people a framework.
Funded multiple revenue sources.
Okay, primarily being?
The primary source is local taxes.
Okay.
About 75% is local taxes, give or take 3%. Can get up to 78% from local area. And then your state, and then your federal government. And then there's some other sources that are grants and other types of.
Is that an anomaly that Fairfax County would put the primary funding source, having it be local as opposed to state or federal?
No.
It's there are a number of factors that lead to that, and Fairfax County, in a sense, is almost a victim of its own prosperity, because historically, the way the funding has worked for the counties and for schools in particular is it's always been based upon property ownership. The property owning class has been taxed, and those taxes have supported what have been seen as local functions, education being one of them. And this is a model that's been in place for well over 100 years. From going back into the 19th century, we still are dealing with the 19th century model of collecting revenue and of spending it and accounting for it. What's happened is that Fairfax is an urbanized county right now. As we've said before, there are over 1 million people in the county. We're larger than many states. Our government center is larger than many state capitals.
That it is.
But it's just, and with good reason, but we're still dealing with a system that where the revenue is coming from property owners. The county, Fairfax County, does not have the authority to, on its own, diversify the tax base by going without asking for permission from the state first. Cities do. Cities have more authority than counties do. So we're dealing with an old agrarian type of model for that. Most of the funds are coming from property taxes. We do have statewide an increasing role of the state in providing the funding, but this goes back to what we were talking about before. Because Fairfax is also a prosperous county, and because we have the idea of the Commonwealth, much of the revenue that Fairfax creates through income tax stays in the state. For every dollar of revenue that's raised through income tax and sales tax that goes to Richmond, about 20 cents, 1/5 of it, comes back to Northern Virginia. Where does the rest of it go? Well, the rest of it goes to other states, other parts of the Commonwealth that don't have the same resources, that don't have the same opportunities that Fairfax does.
Or, as you were also saying, less, urbanized, so they don't have the advantage of having that, the population.
Exactly.
In order to fund a lot of their local necessities.
So what it means is that the state share is much smaller here.
It's just that the state's attitude, the state legislature's attitude towards taxing is one of not taxing the citizens, because they believe they're a low tax state, so that the income tax for the state is low. So that leaves municipalities in order to raise the money on their own. as you could see with the transportation issue, the need to raise the money there for the transportation issue is quite a problem. Now, well, the same with education. So the burden is on the locale to fund for the schools, and so you have to, you do not, the locales have no right to have a individual piggyback income tax that would help. So the locales have to depend on the real estate tax and depend on the state income tax and the state sales tax. And when you have an economic downturn that we have now, your sales tax.
I mean, the county had been doing, quite well with the surge in, personal property. That they were raking in more money, and I know they adjusted the tax rate accordingly, not to try to put an additional burden onto the average taxpayer. But now we're facing the opposite circumstance.
Yeah, well, you
we
have what you call
plummeted
transfer taxes when people buy and sell homes, and they're not doing a lot of that right now.
No.
So,
I mean, when you talk about the political pressures and the tax pressures, to minimize or reduce the taxes, those exist in good times and bad. And so, as you say, when we have a property boom, there's a lot of pressure that says, wait a minute, the county's getting a windfall. And so the county reduced its tax rate from $1.23 per $1,000 of value to 89
I think we have
cents.
someone that wants to put in his 2 cents into our budget scenario here. We have Mike from Centerville. Mike, are you there?
Thank you for having me on the show. I'd like to ask your 2 guests about the governor's plan to cut the administrative support, the guidance counselors, the secretaries, to save money. Doesn't this pull teachers out of the classrooms and have them do administrative stuff instead of focusing on teachers? What do your guests think of this proposal?
It's a heavy subject.
That really is, and that's.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the question. It's that's a huge concern that we have with what's happening with coming from the state, because not only are we seeing an economic downturn in the county, but we're also seeing a huge pullback in the state's ability to be able to support the standards of quality. And so, as Mike has indicated, we're seeing funds cut permanently in a way that will permanently impact what we can do as teachers in the classroom. Because if you think about it, I mean, as the students are coming in the classroom, I mean, we as teachers would love to be able to concentrate. I would love to be able to concentrate just on the geometry. But these students are coming in with a lot of other needs that they have. I
Absolutely.
mean, are they getting fed at home? Do they, what type of economic security do they have? What type of emotional security do they have? And in the best of times, in the best of circumstances, we count on the guidance department and counselors in order to be able to support. Without them there, we can't do we can't teach.
We're going to be back in 1 moment and to dive into the Fairfax County budget crunch in the public schools.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about nothing very nice. Holy smile. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home? When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, ask. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
One day these rats were playing in the woods.
Sharon Sullivan, and I am the Democratic Chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. The special election is scheduled for February 3rd, and I hope to have your vote. Our quality of life in Fairfax County is second to none, and I'm committed to keeping it that way. Our schools are among the best in the nation. We're the safest community of our size in the United States, and Newsweek magazine describes us as one of the greatest success stories of our times. We're facing some difficult challenges as we tackle the economic crisis affecting Fairfax and other local governments across the nation. But I promise you, we will address them with fiscal responsibility and with sensitivity. I look forward to working with you and for you, and respectfully ask for your vote on February 3rd. Thanks so much.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop Virginia. My name is Shannon Sullivan. I'm your host this evening. We are talking with two educators about the budget crunch in Fairfax County and how it affects the public school system as we are approaching public hearings to discuss that budget. We'd left off talking with Mike, who had some concerns about the funding of the school systems and how that was going to affect teachers and administrators. So I want to let Leonard Bumbaca, who is president of the Fairfax County Education Association, and Mark Glaser, who is president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers, pick up where we left off.
Sure. The question that we have, I'm looking at the state, is because the state's dealing with the same fiscal crisis through a drop-off in tax revenues that Mark was talking about in a major way. We've got the governor coming out with a budget with numbers that are getting worse by the week. And
can you throw a couple numbers at us? We need to quantify
yes,
this somehow.
Down about $43 million. The state's going to short Fairfax County about $43 million, and it may end up being more. But this time we're not. That's not sure.
Is this unusual? I mean, is there context?
I mean, statewide, we've got $400 million in cuts to education. When we had the last type of fiscal crisis, that when Governor Warner came in after Gilmore and really had a stable to clean up, he was able to hold education essentially harmless. The situation has gotten so bad now that. Governor Kane is not in the same position. So what we're trying to do as educators, as unions, as advocates, is to be able to soften it, or to be able to make sure that the cuts are not permanent. So when we look,
is that the current proposal? Is to make them permanent?
The type of cuts that are talking about would be $340 million this year and $400 million. Next year and in the years outgoing, changing standards of quality.
There?
The rationale is that there isn't the money, or at least, but what we're saying is that there are other ways of being able to address this, and they need the state and our legislators need to work in order to be able to make sure that the cuts don't just carry forward year in, year out. Because it's going to, as it stands right now, we're looking at eliminating 13,000 positions, including custodians, finance officers. You know, they're administrators, but assistant superintendent, central office personnel. Some of these things we can do without, but others, as Mike has indicated, directly support what we do in the classroom. And we are a state, you know, that we rank 37th in the nation for the level of support for state education funding, and yet we are one of the top states for income. So there's more we can do, and we need the state to look at both sides of the ledger, and we need the county to look at both sides of the ledger. and to be able to not just say that education is a priority, but to really to be able to follow through on that as well.
All right, I mean, we've kind of gone into it. So what are the details of the proposals? What are they looking to cut, and how is that going to impact, your profession as a teacher, but also the administration?
Okay. Within the county, the types of cuts that they're talking about impact most directly class size. Class sizes end up going up. If we have more students coming into the classroom, then that means that we have less time that we can be able to focus on individual needs. The support, as we've indicated before, is beginning to be taken away, so that teachers are required to do more and more of their own are copying, curriculum development.
Where does class size stand right now, and how much of an increase are we looking? Numerically, is it 1 kid per class? Is it 2, 5, 10?
The superintendent in the budget, presently in the budget that he's given to the school board, is going to raise class size by 1/2, and he's risen class size by 1/2 last year also.
A lot of people might say, half a student.
There are no such thing as 1/2 a student. My 5-year-old comes complete. So he's in a kindergarten of 30 students. So this is not good. When the superintendent talks about raising 1/2 a student, he takes all personnel and he divides that by the student body. And that's just not the way it works.
We've had an increase in the student body over the last
supposedly
few years.
there's going to be an increase in student body next year, and also with Fort Belvoir, with more people coming to Fort Belvoir, 30,000 or so more jobs coming to Fort Belvoir. There'll be more people moving to Fairfax County or trying to reside in Fairfax County, which should up the student population some. So Fairfax County predicts about 5,000 more students. Raising class size is not a good idea. But the situation here is in Fairfax County, while yes, there is an economic problem, but 96% of the population in Fairfax County is employed. So we're not feeling as much as a pinch economically as in other parts of the country. So there is revenue sources that can be tapped here in Fairfax County that might not be available in other places.
Well, you have some numbers. Why don't we go ahead into those as far as where perhaps there's excess, where can we find or make up, maybe not in its entirety, but a large portion of this budget shortfall? Because I like how you carve out a couple categories where there could be
I think that
unneeded.
there's some unneeded programs in Fairfax County that can be cut. We're
now,
always
our
interested.
listeners want you to be more specific.
I know that. I really dislike being very specific about
you're going to
cut.
have all those band and orchestra teachers on the phone right now. It could be football. You're calling for cuts in football.
Well, it's one of the things that we look at, and we can talk about some categories that are being cut.
Currently, a little bit more specific.
I would only cut the football helmet.
Sure. But things that are already being cut, I think we need to go ahead and first of all talk about within the school system how it's been presented. The superintendent has basically presented 3 levels of cuts: a Tier 1 level of cuts, Tier 2, and Tier 3. If we think of it as the emergency condition colors, we're talking about yellow, orange, and red. Well, the yellow ones, the Tier 1 cuts, are sort of the garden variety cuts that we deal with any sort of normal downturn. The type of things that will cut back some programs but not really alter significantly the mission of the school system. That would assume that we would get 6% more from the county than last year. The school system takes up 53% of the county's revenue, and so it's clear that we need those because of the membership growth and because of the increased needs. But the Tier 1 represents, okay, these are the things that we could cut, but we could sort of work with.
And it's not an unusual thing that you'd be faced with Tier 1 type circumstances.
Exactly.
So Tier 2.
Tier 2, that's when we get to orange. Tier 2 is, okay, things are really, really bad. It's going to take us 3, 4, 5 years, maybe a decade to get past these types of cuts, because we're going to be making some fundamental cuts to special education, alternative education. We're going to be changing the amount of instructional support, changing class size, increase just the types of services that will start to impact on the quality of the instruction we can give the students.
So evidently with the governor's rollback and a lot of the funding to the county, he's at least under the assumption we're looking at a 10-year program.
Well,
Things are permanent.
Last year's cuts, I mean, this is a second year of cuts to the school system. Last year's cuts was a rise of a half a student, and so we already have a deterioration of the school system, and now we're doing it again. We'd rather see the bureaucracy cut. We'd rather see the fluff in the programs cut. We as instructors would like to see the instructional program retain its integrity.
Right. And that's our shared concern. What we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever cuts are happening away from the instruction, and are done in a way that doesn't continue the damage forward in the out years.
Here's what the problem is. When most of the time in our society, moms are the caregivers, and what our community knows about the school systems is what moms know about the school system, and moms do what do they do most? They go into the classrooms and they talk to their teachers. So that's what they know. They don't know about what happens not far from here at Gatehouse, which is the administrative aspect of what happens to the school system. Their contact is the teacher and the kids in the classroom in their school. That's the integrity of the school system.
Certainly.
Now, if you raise class size, if you cut curriculum materials, if you cut textbooks,
It makes it a little bit more difficult to do your job.
And I hope we'll get an opportunity to talk about Tier 3 and the red cuts.
In just a moment, Tier 3 cuts are on the way, and we have that discussion.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Here's your uncle.
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's. No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing social security information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those? Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time!
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air, and most importantly, come and see me for twice-yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice-yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
If you live and vote in Fairfax County, you have another election coming up on February 3rd.
I know you just voted in November, but this one is really important. You'll be voting for the next chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Because the current board chairman, Jerry Connolly, is resigning to take a seat in Congress, we must elect a new board chair here in Fairfax County. So mark Tuesday, February 3rd on your calendar and vote at your normal polling place between the hours of 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. You'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop, Virginia. My name is Shannon Sullivan, and we are talking about the crunch in the budget in Fairfax County and how that is impacting the Fairfax County public school system. Now, I was born and raised in Fairfax County, and I am a byproduct of the school system, proudly so. I think it's served me well throughout my life. But right now, we're questioning, actually, the long-term implications of cutting funding to the school systems and how that will affect not just the students, but the teachers and the administrators, and how they will be able to live out their lives, afford to live in Fairfax County, and afford to stay in the profession that they love. I have with me Leonard Bumbaca, who's president of the Fairfax Education Association, and Mark Glaser, who's the president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. We had left off on a couple of points, and I want to give both of you a chance to finish your previous statements. We've kind of gone through the tier system of budget cuts. Mm-hmm. You know, tier 1 or yellow, or however you want to make the gradation, is being typical, unfortunate downturns in the economy. Tier 2 is the more than unfortunate, perhaps the long-term cuts, the permanent cuts, the 10-year downturns, which are going to be far more significant. We're moving into a little bit more of tier 3. And so I don't know if you can briefly touch on what tier 3 is and move on to Mark's point about how, you know, the education and the families are being impacted by the cuts.
And tier 3 really affects the fundamental quality of the schools. It's bringing in to the types of cuts that we may never recover from. The types of schools that we knew when we were in elementary school here in Fairfax County may not be available for our children and their children moving forward. So we're looking at significant cuts in tier 3 that need to be considered, but to summer school, to cost of living for teachers, to step increases. There's discussion about furloughs, closing class size. These are the things that are part of the package of tier 3. Now, it's a political process in what type of a budget you bring forward. For viewers who are watching this, we deal with a system where the county, Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, has the tax raising revenue. They have the authority to raise it. The school board has the responsibility to budget it, to be able to set the priorities from the money that's there. The problem that we've got is that through the budget process, the question is where should the cuts come from? Now, and
is there some sort of inequality here as we're moving into a tier 3 category?
Well, in what's being presented to the Board of Supervisors, we have a budget that is somewhere between tier 2 and tier 3. It's got all of the cuts that affect the qualities of services from tier 2, but it's one thing that it brings in from tier 3. It's additional cuts, and this is a concern to us, is entirely by the employees. So what it's education is a personnel-intensive effort. I mean, because it is about the people. It's about the quality of the people that you can hire, the quality of the people that you can keep. And in these economic times, we know as educators, as unions, that there are concessions or just sacrifices that have to happen. But we're not seeing fairness right now in coming through. We're seeing the employees bearing the entirety of the catastrophic category of the cuts. And we need to go ahead and revisit that. We also think, looking at the other side of the ledger, that that the Board of Supervisors needs to go out to the community. The community has spoken through many hearings, as Mark has indicated, that they know what's happening in the schools and they know it's a quality product and want to keep it.
I think that, you see, the situation here is that the contact between the community and the school is very much with the classroom issue. And we have to fund the instructional aspect. Funding the bureaucracy and funding the superfluous programs is not going to help the instructional aspect or help children learn. So we have to start with the instructional aspect first and maintain that. And what moms and dads think is that they think that their tax bill, their real estate tax bill, can go down and they can still get the same quality. And that won't work. They will not get the same individual attention for their child. They will not be able to get their emails answered and their telephone calls answered and the papers, and because classes will be larger, there'll be more kids, there's more pressure, and there'll be more turnover. You'll have newer teachers, and you'll have different teachers, and you'll have teachers who are working 2 jobs, more teachers who are working 2 jobs.
And teachers and educators are really being stretched. In many ways, people don't go into teaching because of the pay. Just like people don't go into nursing, like people don't go into other service-related professions for the pay. But the thing about it is, good intentions don't pay the electric bill. Good intentions don't allow our workers to be able to live in the districts in which they teach. We have a fiscal reality. And
I think we were also talking the unique situation of the educational profession, that where we might talk about, your COLAs, you're being able to make those, every yearly increase, but also the steps that people expect in their salary, that the educational profession is a little bit unlike other occupations.
It's true, because when people look at steps, people, we hear these things every budget cycle. Is like,
people think of them as a bonus.
They're a bonus, and they're not. The reason the steps in education are really key, because first of all, what they do is they recognize the experience. Secondly, in teaching, you don't have a lot of opportunities to be promoted into a higher paying position, nor do you of administration, and nor do we necessarily want it that way. We want to encourage our 25 and 30-year veterans to remain in the classroom, to give the entire benefit of that experience, as Mark has indicated, back to the kids and back to the other teachers. These people are the heart of the buildings. So that when we have the turnover, we have that experience to be able to help guide them.
During the years that real estate values were increasing, property values were increasing, the average...
Which they will do, year on a regular and steady basis. But
prior to the last 2 tax years, the average citizen paid around $230 more per year in taxes.
Each and every year?
Yeah, for a couple of years. Now that the assessment rates are going down, in order to maintain the amount of taxes paid, the property tax rate needs to go up. So what the Board of Supervisors needs to do is that they can make some of this problem go away. They can't make all of it go away, but they can make a lot of it go away. They need to raise property taxes. So what was going on 3 years ago, raising property taxes automatically because real estate property values were going up, and citizens were getting about a $230, $250 average rise in taxes. Well, that can happen again.
Well, I think it also needs a slight clarification, not that I disagree with you, that with the increase in the property values, the tax rate actually decreased, but it had spiked so rapidly and so quickly that people ended up paying more year in and year out.
They did.
They actually lowered the tax rate.
They lowered the tax rate from $1.27 to 93 cents.
But now we're at the point where things have plummeted, and we very much need to make up the deficit.
It goes back to the structural issues we have with the tax system that we've got, where we have to work with it with a rate that it depends upon which way you see it. I mean, as the property taxes, as the property values were going up, keeping the rate the same was actually a tax increase.
Well, my understanding is that the Board of Supervisors have intended, by the adjustment of the property tax rate, to keep basically the same level of taxation. So if we even come to the same level, whatever that numerical value is, to bring it up to the previous year's tax bill, what is it going to take to make up the additional deficit? Do you have a number?
The current the deficit that we're looking at for the school system is about $200 million. If you
how many pennies is it going to take?
It's going to take, and a penny doesn't buy as much as it used to because of falling values, but we're estimating about 15 cents will bring us to level. And we need
Mark,
to
do you have calculations on the to make up
a penny
the
is
difference?
someplace. We think a penny. Last year, a penny was $23 million.
Right.
This year, a penny would probably be less.
Yeah.
So, you know, the school system is short to around $220 million, give or take $5 million. We don't know what's going to happen with the state. So, the schools.
So does 15 cents sound about right in order to make up the shortfall?
It could be. We don't know yet until the county executive brings up the numbers, but that's what we're looking at. Well,
Not quite, Mark.
You know, someplace between 10 and 15 cents. You know, it's hard to tell.
So
Leonard is right about the county executive. He really has the figures. Current figures.
I mean, when we start talking taxation, you know, people's, the hackles go up and they start getting, worried about the bill and confusing the rate with everything else. Is there willpower here?
Well, and that's the point that I think we need to understand. The community has been historically and is very supportive of public education and of our schools. They're proud of our schools. They know that, going back to some of the things we were talking about with achievement, that our average SAT score of 1654 exceeds the state average and the national average by a huge amount. 93% of our graduates go on to post-secondary education. People know that it's an investment that makes this county as great as it is, and are prepared to support it, as long as they know that it's not being wasted, as long as they know it's not going down a sinkhole. And sometimes people will try to characterize it as that. But one of the reasons why we have an increased need is not just because of an increase in cost, but there are two other factors. We have an increase in enrollment of students because we continue to attract more students.
I think Mark had a quick
less support
point there.
from the state.
Well, Fairfax County spends $5,000 less than some neighboring jurisdictions per child. We spend...
Wait, you said 5,000?
$5,000 less.
Per child?
Per child.
It just needs to be reiterated.
We spend $600 less than Montgomery County. If Fairfax County had that $600 per child that Montgomery County spends, that we would get $100 million more. So Fairfax County is basically in the middle of the pack. If you took all the jurisdictions in Northern Virginia along with Montgomery County, they would be in the middle as far as expenditure. So Fairfax County is a pretty good buy per pupil cost.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that our real estate prices adequately reflect the quality of our education, and we want to make sure that we continue to fund our school system, especially our teachers, to provide for the quality of education for our children.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
I'm Supervisor Sharon Bumbaca, and I am the Democratic candidate for the chairman of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. The special election is scheduled for February 3rd, and I hope to have your vote. Our quality of life in Fairfax County is second to none, and I'm committed to keeping it that way. Our schools are among the best in the nation. We're the safest community of our size in the United States, and Newsweek magazine describes us as one of the greatest success stories of our times. We're facing some difficult challenges as we tackle the economic crisis affecting Fairfax and other local governments across the nation. But I promise you, we will address them with fiscal responsibility and with sensitivity. I look forward to working with you and for you, and respectfully ask for your vote on February 3rd. Thanks so much.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop Virginia. My name is Shannon Sullivan, your host this evening. We're talking about the budget crunch in Fairfax County and how that's going to be impacting the public school system. My guests today are Leonard Bumbaca, who's president of the Fairfax County Education Association, and Mark Glaser, who's president of the Fairfax County Federation of Teachers. We've talked a lot about COLAs and furloughs and steps, you know, the budget process, the tax code, the tax rate. And I think there's a lot of people that are wondering what they can actually do at this point. Is it a done deal? Are we just going to concede that the economic condition of our county is too bad? We're going to just have to cut the workforce, cut the salaries, there's nothing we can do. Is there a middle ground, and what can people actually do?
There's a lot people can do. It's not a done deal until the final budget is approved. There's all sorts of, there have been and will continue to be opportunities for input. One coming up is this Wednesday, the 21st, at Luther Jackson Middle School at 6 o'clock. There's going to be public hearings on the budget where anyone and everyone who's got a stake in what's going on, which is the entire community, but especially our members and especially educators, will be coming out to speak about the priorities. In fact, that the hearings have been so overbooked, there's a secondary date that's also going to be opening up as well, which I believe is the 27th.
27th. So we have the 21st at 6 p.m., the 27th at 6 p.m.
Luther Jackson.
Which is
Middle
right off
School.
of Gallows Road.
Right on Gallows Road.
I believe that we have information on the board that can come up on your screen as far as people that want to send testimony. If you want to send your written information directly to the school board, we have an email address. Or if you're looking to schedule yourself in a speaking capacity, there's a phone number that you can call directly to the school board. We encourage you to get in there very quickly. Monday night, as Leonard said, is already full. They only have 120 spots available for the 27th hearing. So out of the entire county, the student body, the parents, the teachers, 120 spots fills up very quickly. So please call that number, send your written testimony to the board. They want to hear from you.
The other avenues to be able to talk to are the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors are going to be, the school board is going to be working on its budget. They will be sending adopting the budget, advertised budget on February the 5th, which will be then sent over to the Board of Supervisors. The Board of Supervisors, as we were talking about before, they're the ones who are going to be deciding what type of a transfer we're going to get, and they need to hear from the community as well too. Those hearings are going to be on the 1st, so they need to email the supervisors.
The first, what month?
I'm sorry,
the
1st of April.
Okay.
And then it comes back to the school system, because then the school system finds out how much money it's going to be working with. At the state level, there's advocacy that people can do as well too. There's a petition that's being presented through a site called fundqualityschools.org. It's a Fund Quality Schools Coalition. coalition of educators, a coalition of community members, PTA members, education advocates from across the entire Commonwealth. www.fundqualityschools.org. It's a petition that's online, it's open, it's painless, it's easy. It's a way of being able to register support to the delegates and the governor and the state senate about the state side of this as well.
Which, you know, Fairfax County might fund 78%, I think, as you said, Mark, of the county school budget, but that still leaves about a quarter back to the state government. So send your messages to Governor Kane and your state representatives. Mark, what do you have planned as far as the upcoming hearings, mobilizing your members?
Yeah, we're mobilizing our members to come out to the hearing on the 21st to show support for the school system and try to get some more money to the school system and try to get the money spent in the right places, try to cut the bureaucracy, try to make instruction number one, try to give the teachers their steps. This is very important.
Can you describe a hearing for us? We're talking about, you know, parents that may have no contact, you know, with the actual public or in the political component of the school system, and it may be intimidating. What can they look for if they want to actually testify?
You can sign, any citizen can sign up to speak at www.fcps, which is Fairfax County Public Schools, fcps.edu, and they can sign up to speak under the school board site.
I believe we also have a phone number for the school board.
Okay.
That's correct.
So they can sign up there. And so once they sign up, they get to be able to speak for 3 minutes. They give a copy of their speech to the clerk. Clerk gives it to the school board members. And then they tell the school board what they believe the school board should be doing. School board is their representatives. School board's elected every 4 years. It's at the same time as the Board of Supervisors. So they're your elected representatives, and you get a chance to persuade them.
Well, I think it's more than persuasion. They are, you know, the elected entity, you know, representing, you know, the teachers and the parents and the students. It's more than just trying to persuade them to do the right thing. They are entitled to hearing your opinion. And I don't think people need to be taken aback or even nervous about, you know, putting their 2 cents in.
Well, that's true. And the message that they need to be sending the school board and the superintendent is, for heaven's sake, ask for what's needed. Make sure to be able to press the case, because the school board, once they adopt their budget, their advertised budget on February the 5th, then they will be making their case to the Board of Supervisors, and they need to be able to ask for what is actually needed in order to support our schools. One of the things that we're both very concerned about is that so much of what's in this budget has already lowered the bar on those expectations and thrown a lot of key constituencies and key needs, special education, college promotion, and just basic classroom instruction and programs under the bus. And we need to go ahead and make sure, no, this is not satisfactory. We need our school board, we need our to be able to go to the Board of Supervisors to press the case for what we actually need. And if the cuts have to come, well, let's not inflict them on ourselves. Let's make sure that the community has had an opportunity to be able to, through the Board of Supervisors, to be able to fund that before.
Absolutely. And I think, Mark, some of your points about the closeness between, you know, the parents and the classroom and the teachers that are providing that fundamental.
It's very important for the community to understand that unless they put the money up for a good quality school system, they're not going to have a good quality school system. They can't cheap out. If you're not going to pay, if you're going to raise class size, if you're going to get to 30 and 40 students, and that's where we're headed. We're headed to 40 students. My members tell me that in their science labs, there's no room for the students to sit now.
Wow.
And this is going to continue to grow. So if they think that their kid is going to go to Harvard in this school system and they're going to save a couple of bucks on their real estate taxes, they're mistaken.
And
you
it's true.
can't buy champagne for a beer price.
And when you go to districts that have this philosophy that we stack them deep and teach them cheap, as I've heard in places, what businesses are going to want to go there? What communities are you going to be able to develop and flourish there? The first thing that's going to happen is this: as it becomes a vicious cycle, then people will not. People will vote with their feet. And the home prices will go down. We hear that only a third of the people or less have children in the schools, but everyone has a stake in what happens.
Businesses will choose to go to other jurisdictions and other places. They will not come here.
The school system is an economic engine for the county.
It is.
And
our students, the children in our schools today, are going to be the future that's going to be, they are dealing with jobs and for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, jobs that we can't even imagine yet. We have an obligation to prepare them and a vested interest as well, and we've got to invest in that.
Fairfax County government used the school system to get Volkswagen to come and relocate.
That's a good point.
To Fairfax County. And now they want to ruin the school system. And that's what basically is happening here. It's a little bit at a time. Last year they made bad choices by raising class size and not cutting the bureaucracy and cutting instruction. You know, over 30 years as a classroom teacher, I've been told instruction is number one, instructional time is number one. We're here for the kids, we're supposed to teach the kids. And what's the school board doing? The school board is destroying the instructional program. And they need to be told not to do that. And who can do that? Only moms and dads. Because moms and dads hold the keys, hold the key here.
Absolutely. I mean, all politics is local, and I think there's nothing more fundamental than reaching out to your elected representatives and tell them how you feel. If you have a child in the Fairfax County public school system, you know how important the quality of their education is, and there's nothing more essential than the quality of the teacher and providing for that teacher's standard of living. Thank you for joining us on the Inside Scoop Virginia, and tune in next week.